The following podcast will contain spoilers for all aired episodes in HBO's Game of Thrones and all published books in George R.R. Martin's A Song of Ice and Fire series.
I just kind of wonder if they have like a designated position at Winterfell now that's like body cleaner upper. It's like, I usually just try to follow. I just try to follow Sir Ramsay around the castle. Something usually turns up.
Welcome to the Bastard of the King's Grave DragonCast edition. We're back this week to review the fourth episode of Game of Thrones Season 6, titled The Book of the Stranger, directed by Daniel Sackheim, written by David Benioff and D.B. Weiss. My name is Zach, also known as Alias on the forums, and joining me for this review, we have...
Hey, this is Small Paul, SerDinnerRoll on the forums.
Hey, this is Adam, drownedsnow on the forums.
This is Bing, Shoeshiner on the forums.
This is Katie, LadyGriffin on the forums.
This is Paul, also known as Pod's Plight.
This is Michal, inkasrain on the forums.
This is Alex, known as LuckyCharms on the forums.
This is Casey, Blue-Eyed Queen on the forums.
And I'm Varley, I'm the caboose of the episode.
That's right. So yes, we're back again to review yet another episode of Game of Thrones. This time around, actually, we're going to be doing it a little bit different because the episode actually was kind of convoluted for once. There's some jumping around, so this time we'll be going location to location, starting with all of the stuff that happened at the wall and then ending with all of the stuff that happened in Vaes Dothrak. So
that's crazy, Zach. How will I keep up?
I don't know. It's going to be wild and wacky. It's going to be a new experience. But first, let's go ahead and do the lemon cake reviews, starting with you, Small Paul. What did you think of episode 4?
I'm giving it a 4.5 out of 5 for just a whole bunch of good stuff. Deducted half a point for any scene with Ramsay.
All right. And Adam?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to give it a 5 out of 5. I think watching it again today, I'm going to stretch it out. I didn't like the Ramsay scene for reasons that we'll get into, but whatever. This episode was really great.
Okay. What did you think, Bing?
4 out of 5, I guess. I can feel how rushed everything is now. Like they're just killing characters left and right. They're like Dany didn't stay out of her triumph mode for very long. They're just trying to push everything towards the end, which is fine. This episode, there's a lot of very good scenes in which they were able to do that with, but 4 out of 5.
Okay. And Katie?
I guess I'll give it a 4. I thought the Ramsay and the Littlefinger scenes were complete wastes of time, and didn't care with the weird discomfort of Tyrion white-splaining to Missandei and Grey Worm about slavery. But other than that, there was some definite high points, especially with Sansa up at the wall. And yeah, I mean, it was fun. And after last week, I think I was ready for there to be fun again.
Very cool. And Big Paul, what did you think?
I'm going to take a page out of Bing's book from episode 2 and give it a 4.20 because Dany loves to blaze it up and burn stuff down. So,
oh my god. Nice. Nice.
It was a lot of fun to see a lot of these scenes that were going on, and things are moving along rapidly, and it's a lot of fun. There's some weird stuff, but we're having fun.
Cool. And Michal, what did you think?
Yeah, I'd probably give it maybe like a 3.75 for... I feel oddly kind of unmoved by it, even though I don't know. I guess I'm just like, whenever the good stuff happens, I'm like, and they certainly played their like good ace at the beginning of this episode for sure, because that was, like after that it kind of immediately met a certain level of like satisfaction, I think, for people. Yeah, but I right, like the Ramsay stuff is always like it's always like a guess about whether it will contribute or just be there to horrify. And the Tyrion, I really wanted to just like slap his nose off or something. And Dany, I don't know, we'll talk about the ending. I don't hate it. It's just, I think when you come from the books, you do have a certain like level of expectation that sometimes is not met by the show, and then it's just like, oh, okay, that's cute, and everyone on Twitter is like losing their shit, and it's like, oh yeah, all right.
And Alex, what did you think of the episode?
I suppose I'd give it 4 sensual bites of mutton out of 5. I've sort of made my peace with a lot of the divergences from the novels, and I'm just sort of enjoying myself, not having an aneurysm every episode.
Yeah.
That must be nice.
Good. Well, what did you think, Casey?
I gave it a 4.5 out of 5. I really enjoyed this episode. I mean, it made me laugh. It made me cry a little bit. It made me horrified, as it usually does at points. But I really loved it. The only things I have, which are really just nitpicks, are the OSHA scene, and the Tyrion logic just isn't really like clicking with me that much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Matt, last but not least.
I'm not sure about that. I'm giving this a 5 out of 5. I loved it. Brother-sister reunions all over the place. Brienne, Tormund, shipping. And I don't want to say white-splaining, but dick-splaining. That's what Tyrion's doing to Sandy and Greywood. He's the only one between the three of them that has a dick.
So. Well, he is an authority on the subject.
Oh, huh.
He is a purveyor of cock merchants and whatnot.
Oh, yeah, he knows people.
Yeah. Shit. Yeah, I mean, lots of brother-sister reunions this episode. Viserys might have been, like, in a puddle on the ground there with Daenerys, too, so that's another one. Very cool. Yeah, I'd give it a pretty high rating as well, probably like a 4 out of 5 lemon cakes. The first bit and the last bit were both very exciting, and it's always fun when there's something energizing and cool in Game of Thrones that you didn't necessarily expect and just, makes you happy. The episode, for the most part, with a couple exceptions, was pretty crowd-pleasing, which was interesting. Game of Thrones doesn't normally do that kind of thing, so curious to see where they go with that, but yeah, for the most part, pretty good so far. Alright, well, let's go ahead and move into the review proper, starting with the wall, where we begin with Ed trying to convince Jon to stay and face the threat to the north. Jon is unconvinced. The conversation is interrupted by a horn, and the gates are thrown open to reveal Sansa, Brienne, and Podrick. Sansa and Jon share a stunned moment at their unlikely reunion so many years later and embrace. They speak of all they have gone through in the time between, and Sansa tries to convince Jon to go and face the Ramsay threat to the south. Jon is unconvinced, tired of all the fighting. Sansa says that she will go to retake Winterfell with or without him. So yes, very heartwarming moment here.
Was anyone else like, this can't be happening?
Kinda.
Like, Sansa's wanted to go to the wall to meet Jon. How is the desire being met? Like, it felt, I feel the same way in the books, I think. It was just such a, so long of people missing each other, right, and not seeing each other in 6 years, and then all of a sudden, yep, she just rides up, and there he is, and it's like, whoa, that was almost too easy. Not in a bad way, just in like I didn't expect that to happen. Like
someone's about to get a spear through the throat.
Right, exactly.
Before this happy moment.
Yeah.
I feel like I wasn't, I don't know, when I was really, really ready to accept it. And also, like, in the back of my mind, I was like, oh, they're going to kill Rickon, so they're giving us this now, But I was just too happy. Like, I teared up a little seeing this, and I guess this is the first time those two have been on screen together. Or at least that's what they said after the episode, so which I didn't realize.
Yeah, I mean, I really love this, and I feel like, in retrospect, I kind of felt like this is a little bit weird, but when I was watching that scene, I was just like, oh my god, they're seeing each other for the first time, and I cried.
Well, and you know what? Like, we've complained a lot about how the show has kind of become fan fiction at this point, and a lot of the stupid things they do, and we get mad at it. But if it's fan fiction, they can give us nice stuff like this, right? Like, that's fine.
This is the like fan fiction.
This is more of this. I'm this is great. So
that and Brienne and Tormund smut. So yeah.
So the opening shot is of Longclaw. And I was like, I distinctly remember Jon walking out of Castle Black saying his watch is done with Longclaw on his hip.
Yeah, he handed off the cloak.
Yeah.
What the fuck is that another continuity thing?
Or something? Or?
Yeah, where he's like, he had a loincloth over himself, like in the first episode, but then woke up completely naked. What happened? He was like, now my watch is ended. Oh shit, I forgot my keys. I gotta come back. Like,
well, see, this is what I said at the end of the last episode, was that they just wanted to end with kind of that mic drop. I'm out of here. My watch is ended, and I'm whispering it so no one can hear me.
And then he had to swivel right back around.
Because
go back in.
Yeah, he had to go to his room and get all of his shit. Yeah. Like, they wanted that moment, and I'm like, I bet next episode we're gonna get that, where they kind of have to explain all this. And sure enough, it would have been a downer, I guess, to make that the end of the episode, where he's like, logistics and shit. So I get doing that.
I was listening back to the DragonCast from last week, and you totally called it. You basically said, yeah, he'd circle back and he'd just go to his room or something, and he definitely did. And I was thrown for a loop when that happened. So good call.
He had to take a moody walk around to clear his head and then just come back.
They've always had this problem with the wall of people just forgetting that there is an apocalypse coming. But for Jon to be like, oh yeah, I'm really down about this. I think I need a career change. It makes sense if there wasn't zombies coming,
right.
With winter. It just feels really incongruent with what we know as viewers. And like I said, they always have this problem with the wall of people not communicating that there's some real bad shit
zombies.
coming. There's
and fucking Ed even reminds them, right?
I think that we're taking this for granted a bit, because in my mind this makes perfect sense, because last week what we were saying is like, oh, he seems like nothing's wrong with him, right? Well, maybe that moment where he decides to kill them instead of sparing them, maybe that is kind of the out-of-character Jon moment where he just doesn't – he's, like, less in touch with his emotions. He just doesn't give as many fucks as he did before he died. And maybe not necessarily just because he died and was betrayed, but maybe some of that was left behind.
And now he just wants to go south, get warm, and get a tan.
Yeah, and maybe he's like, so what about the whites, man?
Yeah,
I was fucking dead, and now I'm alive, and
yeah, like, look at – Sansa had to really step up and be like, hey – Winterfell, dude, like, what the hell? Like, you should be on this too.
I think it makes sense for Jon's priorities to shrink at this point, for sure. I just think that it was a little bit of a bumpy transition. I think that was pretty powerful in the last episode. And if Sansa had gotten to the wall and it was like you literally just missed him, he was.
It would have been so much rage.
South, yeah. I sort of think that maybe would have made a little bit more sense. But I don't have a problem with Jon being like, so everyone dies, so I'll die again.
Everyone dies. Why do we got to go back to Winterfell?
Uncle Owen, that Jon has a bad motivator.
I just want to go to the Tashi station.
Oh, don't no. Oh.
Yes.
I almost wonder if they're trying to pull off Jon's anger is a change for him, but it's just not coming off that well because maybe he can hear. Yeah, because I feel like there's certain things that he does that I'm like, oh yeah, this is not typical Jon Snow that we know from the past 5 seasons, and then we're getting him a little bit angrier now, but it's just not. His facial expression is still that sad Jon Snow looking face. It's really pretty.
He even mentions he's like, I was always sulking in the corner. Ugh.
Yeah, it's like, hello darkness, my old friend.
Nothing has changed.
But it was certainly nice to see a whole new perspective of Sansa being happy and jovial for once in her life. It's been seasons and seasons since we've seen her happy and smiling and joking about stuff.
And did anyone else know she was redder? Her hair seemed redder. Her cheeks were redder. Yeah. Compared to the blue filter they've had on her since she escaped Winterfell.
She was in the water.
Yeah, well, she looks remarkably good for having gone through all of that. She perks up really quickly, but whatever.
Yeah. Well, that soup is just so fucking good.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Three-finger hub soup. We'll just do that.
Yeah, I took issue with Dolorous Ed shitting on the food. Three-fingered Hob is the best cook in all of Westeros. Come on.
I did feel a little bad for Jon since he's the only youngster that didn't hit a huge growth spurt, so he's the shortest Stark now, and Sansa was way bigger than him.
Well, Sansa, she's just very tall.
He's also lost several inches of hair, so that doesn't help. But yeah, we have Jeff14 joining us. Jeff, what did you think of the episode?
Sorry for just dancing in. I liked it a lot. I would have given it a 5, but the last part kind of brought it down.
Oh.
Okay, curious to see why you felt that way.
Okay, so I would probably give it a 4.
All right.
So
wow, it brought it way down for you.
A whole lemon cake. All right, any other thoughts on the bit on the wall? The first bit on the wall.
Oh, do me.
Amber, what did you think?
Hello, this is Amberrocks. I really liked it. I gave it 4.5 stars, but I usually rate it pretty high because I had a heads up that everybody loved this episode, so I don't think that made me like it less, but...
We've influenced you.
But it was just kind of oh yeah, that was good. It wasn't but I wanted to say, I think that, I totally cried, Jon and Sansa. Oh my god, I cried. I cried enough that my husband made fun of me for crying. Oh, and I don't think Jon hanging those dudes was any sign of him changing. I don't think it's anything different than he would have, because when they were talking at lunch, or dinner or whatever, he was saying, I did this, I fought that, I killed these guys, I killed my friends, I killed my enemies, I hung a boy. And he kind of just listed that as the things he was doing, the battles he was fighting. It's not like, he kind of just counted that as part of his history. It wasn't anything new.
I mean, I think hanging was okay with him because, I mean, he chopped off, what's his fuck's head?
Exactly.
The way he did it was a little different, like maybe his attitude about it. But he did seem when he was like, yeah, I hung a boy Brand's age, like he did seem a bit torn up about that, I guess.
I do think Ollie and Janos Lind are very different propositions. Janos Lind is a dick and a pretty evil person.
Ollie stabbed the fucker.
Yeah,
I would cut the shit off of his head.
True, but he's stoic and he has reasons, and he understands what those reasons are, right?
Yeah, there's a definite difference there. But I even think he felt shitty about killing Thorn. I think he like the disgust on his face when like he's hearing the other guys, who are clearly not malicious and just kind of like either following Thorn's lead or trying for one like little gasp of glory or whatever it was, and it's just like this pathetic revolution that worked. And then like they had like the ultimate spoiler literally come down on them.
Did it seem like his decision to be like, I'm not Lord Commander anymore, did it seem like that was just what he intended all along? Or did it seem like maybe Thorn's words got to him? He's like, oh, you're just going to be fighting forever because you're immortal now. And he was just kind of like, yeah, I'm done with this. Like, I don't know.
It's multiple reasons. I think he has many reasons to be the way he is right now. Being killed, definitely up there. I think that's believable. Just a last thought on the stuff with Jon and Sansa. I was wondering why I had such an emotional reaction to that moment, and it wasn't really clear to me until I thought about it a little bit more. And it's just, when you think about it, there's so much subtext to that moment that you don't necessarily get. You get a little bit of it later in the next scene where they're kind of talking about the fact that of the Stark children, these two were the most estranged. So it was just kind of an amazing moment to see the two characters that actually in the show never even had an encounter just be so willing to go to each other and find comfort in each other. And I don't know, it was just real good and really well done. So yeah.
Well, it definitely, like, you forget just how long it's been.
Yeah.
It's been years and years and years since they've seen or heard of each other. I was kind of wondering, when Jon was bitching about all the fighting he's done, do you think that it ever came out what all this shit that Sansa's been through? Like, or do they not talk about that and he just assumes the worst?
Well, she's not even telling Brienne. I mean, they had that moment in the second episode or whatever where Brienne was like, what happened with Ramsay? And Sansa just didn't say anything. So I don't know. I did want Sansa was great the whole time, but I did kind of want her to be like, when she says, I'll take back the North, like, with or without you, like, that's a great moment, but it kind of wasn't backed up with anything, and I kind of wanted her to be like, look, I have fucking suffered, and I will do this, like, just elaborate a little bit more.
I need a win, kind of,
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, we do have the part where Melisandre tells Davos that she will follow Jon Snow, the prince who was promised. Davos
She's like, what are you doing? She's like, I'm going where God is.
And Davos is like, what about Stannis, though? And Melisandre tells of his defeat at Winterfell.
Finally!
Before Davos can find out what happened to Shireen, Brienne arrives to tell them that she executed the would-be king and that he admitted to her that he used dark magic to kill Renly with a pointed look at the Red Woman. So, after that tender moment, this was an exceptionally awkward moment with these people coming together that have gripes with each other.
Poor Greg. Confirmation.
Yeah.
He's still alive. She's lying.
I thought the shared look of embarrassment between Davos and Melisandre was actually pretty great.
Yes, that side look.
Like, oh yeah, we did use blood magic. Sorry.
And we did kill his brother. Shit.
It is confusing to me that this is the first time he's asking anything about Shireen. I would have assumed there would have been a conversation to just be like, yeah, Shireen died with everyone else and I got away somehow, and then, like, at the very least, well, why didn't you save her? Like, why didn't she come with you or something? I don't know.
Or is she a hostage? That makes a lot more sense for her to be Ramsay Bolton's hostage.
But yeah, it's like, how do you get away and she doesn't, I think, is the question Davos should be having.
Do we think that maybe Davos is avoiding the reality that he probably already knows, though?
Could be. I also think it's possible that just so much stuff has been going on at the wall that he's been distracted, possibly, and has pursued it. Let's have a look at Jon opening up a letter from Ramsay over a nice dinner and learning that the Bolton bastard has Rickon Stark as his captive. The letter promises torment after torment for Ramsay's enemies. Sansa finishes the letter when Jon cannot and is newly determined to fight for Winterfell and save Rickon. Jon finally agrees to lend his aid. Tormund tells him that the wildlings lack the forces to truly battle a northern host, and Sansa tells Jon to use his status as the last free son of Eddard Stark to rally northern swords to his cause. So yes, this kind of interesting change of the dynamic that you guys were speculating on last episode about whether or not it's possible that the stuff with the Umbers could have been duplicitous. They could be in the grand Umber conspiracy or something, but we'll have to see. I don't know how this changes it. What do you guys think?
I think it just, I just think it is what they've shown us. I think that it is what it is, and I mean that's okay, I guess.
Agreed. I think they're this year's Thens.
Yeah, the Thens were super different, but like they worked on the show, like whatever.
Yeah, but they bring up like all the time, like the North remembers Northern, like all behind the Starks, and
I mean they set it up, and then I think they're just gonna set it down for a little bit. I think it's more about leaving themselves options. Like we see this, like they set up Tysha in season 1 and then didn't go there. Or they set up something and then they decide to go a different direction. If you set something up that's small, you can remind people later about it. Or if you decide to go a different direction, you can just sort of sweep it under the rug or introduce something that contradicts it.
It's always best in the early seasons to just keep options open because they don't have the whole series planned out.
I guess there's still a possibility if somehow that wasn't Shaggy Dog, which I am doubting. And, I mean, what we see in the later scene is, like, Asha's in for an assassination attempt, so maybe that's something that was maybe part of a potential plan. I don't know.
I think Rickon's actor confirmed it with Shaggy Dog.
What?
Confirmed.
Well, he shouldn't be doing that.
Jon Snow is dead.
It's not papier-mâché. Sorry, Greg.
Papier-mâché. Yeah, well, I mean, if it is, then it is what it is, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think you guys are right. It's probably as simple as the Umbers and the Karstarks are with Ramsay, and Jon's gonna find some other Northern Lords to help him. Hopefully, ones with big buckets in their name. That would be cool.
Big buckets, bare walls, and 2 fat to sit horses.
Exactly.
Shit, we're fucked.
Though we do know that supposedly Ramsay at least believes that the Manderleys are on his side, so it'll be curious to see if they do introduce them and how they will play into it.
They probably should have gone with Sansa rallies the North and Jon's the commander, and then Jon becomes the Targaryen, and then Sansa pledges fealty to Jon, and then you both get Jon and Sansa in places of power.
I have a feeling it's going to play that way eventually. Thoughts on Tormund and Brienne, the ship that was promised?
Yes.
Of course.
Gross.
So cute.
Awesome.
Oh my god, I love it so much.
We got gross, we got awesome.
Why not?
Because
Leave
Brienne's
Brienne
not
alone.
interested.
Yeah, that's the reason.
Brienne likes handsome men, okay, and needs to be with Jaime. Although at this point, Jaime doesn't deserve her.
The whole joke just seems to be he's really into her and she's really not into him, and so
There's a giant bear in the middle of that relationship, and Tormund wants to snuggle up, and Brienne wants to fight it.
Yeah. We can return to Tormund and Brienne if anything does happen with it later. We'll see. There's no guarantees. It could just be a joke. Yeah. So we then go to Runestone. I think just like someplace in the Vale where Yonorys is, where Littlefinger returns to the Vale and approaches Robin Arryn and Yonorys as the boy practices in the yard. Peter offers a pet falcon as a gift. A gyrfalcon as a gift for his nephew, and the young lord gladly accepts. When Royce demands to know how Sansa was married to Ramsay, Littlefinger simply says that Bolton men captured her because geography isn't a thing, and suggests that the Vale Lord... Someone added that, I can tell. It suggests that the Vale Lord himself may have been involved. Robin is all for a Moondor execution, but Littlefinger talks him down when Bronzion swears his loyalty. Littlefinger says that Sansa has escaped to Castle Black, and that it is time for the Vale to finally join the fray.
What Moondor does he have? He's going to throw a guy off like 30 feet.
Yeah, they're going to climb, make the Perilous climb back up to the Moondor.
The budget Moondor.
Yeah, the bloody game.
The guy's going to be like, oh no, ouch, that really hurt. Fuck, guys. I think I broke my leg.
All right. So who hates this scene?
I hate it.
Here.
I'm ready. I will fight you.
It just, I guess the characterization of Robin is disappointing for me, and it's not because I need Robin specifically to be a nuanced and interesting character, like he's slowly becoming in the books ever since his mother died, but it's just that I feel like we already have enough monsters who are just monsters. But yeah, I mean, he has no empathy, he has no nuance, he's just there to be manipulated by Littlefinger, and I don't know, I feel like we already have enough of these characters, and it would have been more interesting if there was an actual feeling of conflict between him not being sure what to do, whether he should be manipulated by Littlefinger or, I don't know, just having any sort of inner conflict. It just came off as a really boring...
Having a thought in his head.
Yeah, it just felt really boring to me, and probably the least interesting direction they could have chosen.
Agreed.
Were you feeling that there was kind of a hint of Joffrey kind of in him? Is that what you're seeing? Or?
Even less. It was more like Ramsay. It's just like there's nothing to him.
Yeah, I mean,
he's just a brat.
To me, I just kind of felt like he was a prop. I thought that the stuff between Littlefinger and Bronzione is what made the scene, and then the fact that the plot is moving forward. I don't know. I don't expect anything out of Robin.
It's just, I think that, you know, like almost forget about Robin. Like, Littlefinger actually had an opportunity to be challenged last season, where it was like, oh, this marriage that you arranged went horribly wrong, you know?
Yeah.
And we don't see any of his response to that. And now he like rides up and is like, you know, I'm just gonna do this little my magic manipulation on him and Robin, and like just get them all to think whatever it is, you know, like, oh yeah, this was all Yoan Royce's fault, even though like Royce has like raised Robin for the past 2 years, year, whatever it is, you know, and like he knows him, and it's just that like it's really for me the lack of conflict at all in the scene, where it's like, I know that Littlefinger's going to get what he wants, so make him work for it a little bit.
But
you know?
Michal, you got him a Gyrfalcon, the rarest of all birds.
I was like, I wonder how much blood was shed to get that falcon.
I'm really concerned that he's going to get killed, like within the next few episodes. And
Littlefinger?
Yeah, I really think they're going to off him. And it makes
I hope so, and I hope Sansa does it.
I don't want him to get offed, and not because I don't think he deserves it. It's just they keep killing characters, and not in a cathartic or interesting way. It's just wiping a hand across the cast list. Like, who do we actually really need in these last few seasons? Not this one, not this one. And Littlefinger, for several seasons, like, he has been whatever his motivations are, he feels like someone to be reckoned with, like someone with a motivation and a plan, and we don't get that right here. It feels like, I think we're all kind of scrambling. Like, we don't have a sense of what he wants, or really what the show writers want him to want, which I think is more troubling.
It does feel like he could just get up there, give, you know, Jon and Sansa the 200 nights or whatever it is, and then be killed off, and there wouldn't be any further ripples on the story. I don't know if that's the way that they're going to go. At least we do have some hint that there will be some kind of confrontation next episode. But I don't really see him being killed right away, but I do kind of feel sometimes like they're like, well, we can't deal with this anymore, so dead.
Yeah, lately especially. What's best case scenario for him? He goes and meets up with the army, and they take back Winterfell, and I mean, Sansa's the queen in the north or something, and they create a new kingdom. Or I'm trying to figure out what could be something.
I have a crackpot theory. Does anyone think he's going to try, like, they're going to get rid of Ramsay, and then he's going to try to marry her off to Sweet Robin?
Well, but he can't marry her off anymore, right?
Well, I mean, just an alliance, I suppose.
Why wouldn't he marry her himself?
I don't know. That's the part that confuses me. But I guess, like, this is my crackpot theory, and I can't believe I'm giving D&D this much credit, but I'm like, oh, a gift of a Gyrfalcon. Like, in medieval falconry, like, that's actually it's a bird reserved for a king, usually. And I'm like, are they really driving for that sort of level of nuance and symbolism? And I don't think they are, but that's my crackpot theory.
Either way, I hope that Littlefinger lives long enough to see the actual threat of the White Walkers and see that all his scheming was for nothing, and he was really pointless.
If they do manage to save Rickon, which I'm not hopeful for, that marriage could work, because then Rickon would be Lord of Winterfell, right? So
marry Rickon to Sweet Robin.
Yeah. I don't think that's allowed in Westeros. They're not that forward thinking.
Two kings.
They can both get Gyrfalcons to replace dead wolves.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind if it ends up being they capture Baelish and then just, all right, we can let him go, and Sansa's just like, let him go beyond the wall. They just kind of shove him out into the snow.
Oh, if they capture him, you got to think he's got something up his sleeve where it's like, you need me for something. I don't know.
He's negotiating with the others.
Naturally.
No, I meant Sansa and Jon and all them. If they decide like to be like, we don't like him, screw him. He's got something, up his sleeve.
Baelish comes back. Ah, yes, I've now arranged a marriage between Sansa and the Night's King. There's gonna be peace.
I hear he's a great guy. He's like 1,000 years old, but my little birds tell me he's a great guy.
He's a fixer-upper.
He has huge tracts of land to offer.
Also, he promises not to murder us all and turn us into whites.
I'm sorry, I really like that idea.
Anyway, let's go ahead and go to Meereen, everybody's favorite part of the book and the show, where Tyrion meets with the Masters of Slavers Bay despite the protests of his so-called partners in government. He proposes that the Masters can maintain the slave trade for 7 years so long as they cease any support of the Sons of the Harpy. The freedmen arrive to protest this action but are talked down by Missandei and Grey Worm. In private, they oppose any kind of connection with the Masters, and that despite his brief sojourn as a cock merchant fodder, he does not understand what it is truly like to be a slave. So yes, more Tyrion stuff.
I had no real problem with this because I felt it kind of matched Tyrion's character. He's all been about kind of compromises and kind of just he'll do it his way and not really taking a hard-line stance on very much. But then you see Missandei and Grey Worm, who have been oppressed by the system of slavery for so long, that they know that they want it gone. Meanwhile, Tyrion's just like, oh yeah, it'll be gone, but in like 7 years. And Missandei and Grey Worm are still like, well, no, that's still too fucking long.
It's impossible for me to get invested in any of this because none of it matters, right? Because 7 years are not going to pass before this story is over. But again, I know, like, characters will be characters. They'll do what they are supposed to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just impossible for me to care about any of this.
Yeah, I was just watching this go down, and it was like, okay, you have 7 years to phase out your slaves, and I just expected the slavers to go like, or what? Like, we own half of Meereen, you have no army. This is not a negotiation. This is this is terms of surrender.
I think what they're thinking is, and probably what Tyrion's thinking as well, is buying time. I don't think anyone thinks of this as he's giving an ultimatum here, and he's trying to come from a position of strength, saying like, oh, well, the queen will be back soon, man. And I think he really hopes that, but he really needs to buy himself some breathing room so they can find her, deal with getting the dragons ready, and maybe convince her to leave.
So you think it's all bullshit? You think he's just spinning a story?
I think it's mostly bullshit, and it's the only card he has to play. I don't think he likes slavery, but he also thinks he can just kind of fix this, and at the very least create a temporary solution, and take the heat off of them, etc.
Well, I think he's really taking a Joseph Stiglitz model of transitioning an economy from one to another, whereas like Jeffrey Sachs one, where he went communist Poland to capitalist Poland, and it worked, and he tried it with Russia, and it fucking did not work. So it's like they need to actually establish institutions over these 70 years that will like have like
your master's degree is showing that.
I know shit.
I know.
But yeah, to set up like institutions that will like actually enforce contracts and stuff like that. So like the slaves are no longer slaves, they're entrepreneurs that can actually get investments from banks and have them secured by other higher up government authorities and stuff like that.
I'm definitely torn between the two of these positions of he thinks it's actually a viable solution, or he's just procrastinating and thinking around until new things happen. I'm kind of leaning toward just trying to put things off for later and waiting for things to play out. I don't think he actually thinks that. Well, he might think it could work, but it doesn't seem that way to me.
Like, why wouldn't he just tell Missandei and Grey Worm, like, I'm full of shit. We're waiting for Dany to come back. Like, that's the easiest way to win them over to this cause, not try to ideologically change the lives of two people who have spent the majority of their lives tortured by the same people they were just in a meeting with.
Because options, you got to leave your options open, and if he has to actually end up committing to that and trying to make that work somehow.
It's also just like, just going back to, I don't understand what's backing this up from like, if he is really bullshitting, that's fine, but I don't understand why the masters are coming, like why this whole thing is happening, really. Like, why are there negotiations being made? Do they have an army? I mean, how many Unsullied are left?
They do now.
But they do have dragons. And they've seen the dragons in action.
They do now.
Yeah, they have two dragons that, sure, okay, so they have that one
dragons.
wild card that, like
the Dothraki even know she has dragons, and they don't care.
I feel like, though, this scene was good at, explaining, like, how precarious the situation is in Meereen. And more on the point for Tyrion, I think there was almost two layers of the conversation going on. One with just talking and associating with the Grey Worm and Missandei about just compromise and looking for a solution, and then also implying to the Grandmasters that you don't have to have slavery to be rich, and kind of pushing towards the idea in Westeros how essentially the peasants are indentured servants, and you can kind of play to their greed. You can get rid of slavery and just call it something different, which is terrible, but at the same time pragmatic in Tyrion's sense.
But yeah, the people could all move away in that point, right? Anyone who doesn't want to live there can at least like try to seek a better life somewhere else if they felt like it. And it's just like, yeah, the economy, it makes sense that you overnight, because they're seeing it in Meereen, like overnight it didn't work, and like trying to govern this city and then trying to tell other people to do the same thing.
Economy. Yes, hopefully it'll all work.
Oh boy.
All right,
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and move to King's Landing, where Marjorie is brought to meet with the High Sparrow. The old Septon tells a long story about his shoemaking days, speaking of economy and stuff, and how greed and indulgence are bad and stuff. He takes Marjorie...
Oh my god, that story was so long. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I was just like, when are you
I had to watch it a few
talking?
times to understand what he was saying, because I was getting bored with it.
Yeah, was he ripping off the 7-pointed star, or was that really his story? I don't know what's going on.
So then he takes Marjorie to see Loras broken down and ready to do anything to escape this torment. So yes, another one of the High Sparrow pontificating, as he is wont to do.
The part with the sparrow wasn't great, but once we got to Loras,
pretty brutal.
That was so sad.
It's interesting that he doesn't have... I mean, I understand why he doesn't, because he's a zealot, but he tells this story about understanding that...
Did you just say zealot?
Zealot.
Zealot.
I would agree, zealot.
I've always heard... Anyway.
Potato.
Anyway, he tells this long story about how the class system is essentially... It's a socially constructed illusion, and it's like, okay, I follow you, but like most zealots... or zealots, if you will, he doesn't really have the perspective that his religion is also a narrative that puts him in a place of power. It's just interesting that like he has that hypocrisy at his core that he has constructed. His whole spiel is that he sees the hypocrisy of like class-based society, but he doesn't really see the hypocrisy of a theocracy or a religion-based society.
Yeah, well, I mean, according to him, that's a merit-based society, right? Like, not whereas... Well, I mean, there's two things going on. There's the merit-based society, and then there's also the idea that, like, the whole, like, oh, this is but a veil, and the true goals in life or the afterlife. Like what Cersei says, he doesn't care about any of this. This isn't real to him. So he's not... That's not going to be valuable to him. So he just considers, everything is like a barrier to that.
And he's allowed to rule because he's wearing a potato sack.
Right, exactly. And it's interesting the way he takes the reins of power. Like it is pretty skillful the way it's written that he is like, because he's very, very definitively, I think, taking the reins of power, over Tommen. I think that was, very notable. But he does it in such a way where you can see how it's easily ignored and how he would self-justify that.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of thoughts on it. I was hoping Marjorie would go like full sass on him and just like call him on all this bullshit, but I guess she's trying to escape and whatnot.
She doesn't want more punishment for Loras.
She has reasons for it.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, what was his goal in letting her see Loras? Like, she had it kind of in mind that what she would...
It was to break Loras?
That's what she says.
It was to break Loras?
Well, that's what she says, but he seems to already be broken, so
yeah,
I think
that seems to be a done
her
deal.
in line.
Yeah, I didn't think it was for Loras's benefit. I think he's manipulating her and giving her a carrot instead of the stick for once. I think the High Sparrow is manipulating Marjorie. I don't think he gives a shit about Loras because Loras is very tractable. He just wants out of this bullshit. It seems like he's ready to confess to anything. Whereas Marjorie is not going to break, and so she needs to be given incentive, and the incentive is, look, take care of your brother, do what's right for him.
Oh yeah, I think that's definitely what's happening here. Let's go ahead and get the second part. Cersei and Tommen meeting about the whole High Sparrow problem. Tommen is back to his old strategy of not wanting to do anything and tells Cersei that Marjorie will have her own walk soon. Cersei goes to tell Kevin and Olenna about this, and they make a weird plan to use the Tyrell forces to disarm the Faith.
I love this. I love Cersei creeping, being a total creeper, and then showing up, and Pycelle being like, what's going on? And then I love the little supervillain team up with her and Olenna. It's like they give him this look like, yes, we must kill Superman, and even though we hate each other,
So there was some weird miscommunication going on at some level of this, because last week the High Sparrow didn't tell Tommen about anything about Marjorie having to do a walk or anything like that. He just said that Cersei wasn't done and she was going to have a trial. So either he told Cersei something that the High Sparrow didn't say, or maybe he just said it off screen, or Cersei just made up this when she brought it to the Tyrells, that it was really about her, and she made it about Marjorie on her own accord to try to get them to do stuff.
Either they were saving that as a reveal for Cersei being like, oh no, Marjorie has to do a walk of shame, and they wanted that to be revealed in the conversation with Queen of Thorns, or I hadn't really thought about that possibility. Yeah, maybe this is a ruse to get the Tyrells involved.
I think that's a bit too much misdirection. I think it's more likely that Tommen has been fed bullshit by the High Sparrow, because he knows he's going to relay it to his mother, in which case she's going to act first and cause a reaction.
There's some kind of other half of this that we're not seeing yet, because it's way too obviously put out there and way too like, all right, we're finally gonna,
a peasant revolt,
maybe, or just a hell of a lot of sparrows.
It seems in his benefit, or the High Sparrow at least, it seems in his benefit to force the crown's hand so that the peasantry has a reason to push back, and they're in the right.
Right now, he doesn't have the numbers. Just his little people. I mean, he's got a lot of faith militant, but he couldn't take the keep. He couldn't hold the city. I mean, the city watch could probably take him down if Tommen ordered it.
And it seems like all the people in the city like the sparrows more than they like the guards or the crown. Yeah. And so if they get all massacred, then the people are going to have a lot to say about that.
Well, but at the moment, it doesn't seem like the city is, ready to raise arms or anything. So, if the Tyrells show up, I mean, hopefully with enough men, I mean, I don't know. Do you think he's got the peasants just waiting to start a riot and kill off all these soldiers?
Can't possibly just work, right? They can't just the Tyrells are going to show up and win, and that's it. It's not going to be that simple.
No.
Yeah, no, it's not. Something bad is going to happen. I don't know what, but something bad.
Loras dies, probably.
I wouldn't be surprised if Marjorie dies.
I think Loras is definitely on the chopping block for entirely cynical trailer reasons that haven't come up in the show yet.
I've always thought that Marjorie has a big fat target on her back because she's too close to being an active player, but she's not quite there. She's not really accomplishing anything that she could. If she gets back to the Red Keep and the Sparrow is either dead or neutralized, or there's some kind of standoff, she's a very powerful player in the game all of a sudden, especially with Olenna there. And I don't think Loras is anywhere near as powerful a player. So for me, it's got to be Marjorie.
And I guess we still have to get Clegane, so.
Right. Yeah, and...
All right, let's go ahead and move to the next part. The Iron Islands, where Theon returns to Pike and finds his sister waiting for him in the Seastone chair. Euron doesn't have a problem with this because he's not even there. Yara is still mad at Theon for refusing to come with her during her escape attempt, and Theon simply says that he was utterly broken by Ramsay. She demands to know why he has returned to the Iron Islands now, and if his plan is to try to take the chair for himself. Theon says that he has no intention of ruling anything and will support her claim at the Kingsmoot.
Iron Island reunions are rough.
You know what? I kind of like
go
this.
to this sad room with the chair.
I liked it too.
One person sitting in the chair.
This is like the polar opposite of Jon and Sansa.
Yes, it was. It was definitely the polar opposite.
I mean, I thought it was kind of a good scene, but it was just like poor, Yara. Still have a hard time calling her that.
Yara.
Yeah.
Yara equals.
It's because she is a pirate. Yara. Etc.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But she shows up and she's like, "What? You trying to take my claim?" She's like, "They sent us your your manhood, so screw you." Like, man, just rubbing it in his face. Brutal.
Well, she didn't literally rub it in his face, to be fair.
Yeah, and
she could have done that.
And he's like,
what kind of bothered me specifically was how just he's like, "I'll give you my support," and I'm just like, what support is this? Everyone kind of knows that this is like the broken son of Balon. I don't really know how much support he could give her besides the fact that he's like, well, he's
not running against her.
It's still the son of Balon.
Yeah, he can be the VP and balance the ticket.
I like this idea that they're working together. I've always liked Yara, and I
it hurts you to say Yara almost as much as it hurts Cersei to say Queen Marjorie.
It does pain me to say it a little bit, yeah. But I don't know. I like this idea. Here's the thing. I've always kind of thought that there was a certain softness under there, and it's peeked out every so often, and I feel like this could be a good opportunity for that to manifest in a good way, but it doesn't matter because they're gonna get screwed by Euron next week, so it's fine.
Yeah, they're both gonna be dead.
Yeah, most likely.
I mean, what's best case scenario for Theon? Is he becomes like a drowned priest or something?
I really don't know what his point is. I mean, I guess maybe they could kill Asha and have him be the candidate who is like, no, we need to have another Kingsmoot.
Well, no, but I mean, let's say in his mind, if he actually helps her become queen, but what is his? Is he going to be a lord of something? Is he just want to be left alone? I don't really understand.
Well, I have to assume
live
that
quietly.
Yeah, I have to assume that her, Balon's thing to her, when I'm dead, you can wage all the peace you like. That isn't as much of a secret, I guess, or it's not as new information as it would be to, I guess, just the watching audience, and that Theon is aware that she has that kind of plan to just maybe not wage constant war that they are outmatched in all the time.
Maybe he'll go to the Quiet Isle with the Salt Wives.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he has no idea his uncle's back, so, or I guess she doesn't either at this point.
True.
Nobody knows.
Oh, that's right. She doesn't know.
Why are we having a Kingsmoot again? Why? There should be no contest.
Because there's always
a no contest, right? It should just be her, right?
It should just be the heir. The dude that's not the damp hair said last time that they always have a Kingsmoot, even though they haven't had a king in 200 years or 300 years.
Bizarre.
Because of Victorian?
There is no Victorian.
I was just wondering, we do get that scene with Yara, and doesn't she's making out with somebody, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. She's making out with a lady.
Yeah.
Which is why I think they're going to kill Loras. They're going to kill Loras I think they're going to kill Loras and whoops, we can't kill the one gay person on the show. Yara, go kiss some lady.
Others have noticed this as we noted this as well, but this was the third brother-sister reunion where the sister's telling the brother, pull yourself together, buck up. You got to get over all your brokenness and move on. And so that's noteworthy, I suppose. Don't know what it's meaning, but all the ladies are keeping it together.
Yay!
Michal's just in the background.
Yeah.
Yay!
The world's tiniest pom-poms I'm waving.
Speaking of
all victories on this show.
Speaking of all the fun and excitement and yay-worthy moments, let's go ahead and go to Winterfell, where we have Osha. Being brought back to Ramsay. Ramsay questions the wildlings' support of the young Stark boy, or man, or whatever he is at this point, as you guys discussed last week. Osha explains that her plan all along was to betray the boy and tries to seduce Ramsay. Ramsay tells her that Theon told him everything and stabs her in the neck with a blade. Ramsay goes back to skinning his apple as she dies. The saga of Ramsay continues.
I'm just curious, now that begrudge Natalia Tena for getting like 2 episodes of credit, I guess, but like, why couldn't we just have had like, and Asha died?
Yeah, off screen.
Yeah, and then we would have had an episode without Ramsay.
Very important.
They like him too much. It's a little weird.
It's boring, and
they got a man crush.
I felt really sad when she died. Maybe just disappointing. Like, really, we're doing this again. But also, I thought she acted it well. Just like her expression of, it was really sad and kind of shocked. Like she really could not reconcile that this had turned on her. And I kind of get what they were doing. Like, I guess if they wanted to get rid of her, they were trying to contrast it with when she seduced Theon, and that went splendidly for her. But at this point, yeah, it's just rote. It's like, we get it. He's awful, and you got rid of a really awesome character for no reason. Again, 4 episodes in a row.
So I think the problem with the show regarding Ramsay is that I think when the 5th book came out, there was a lot of hype about the Reek stuff, the Reek plot line, and a lot of people talking about Ramsay, and it's over on the internet. And I think oddly, what the showrunners are doing, they think they're giving fan service to some of the book readers, and I think that was what started them with season 3 stuff, in which they showed all of the Theon stuff, torture, whereas in the books it was all off screen. And I think eventually they may have realized that the book readers actually to see this on the screen, but I think they just committed at this point.
It just comes back to the fact that there's no conflict with him or anyone around him. He gets away with everything. I mean, Joffrey did have that leverage over people, but there was also people keeping him in check and pushing back, and there was always a specter of doubt as to whether he was going to get away with the terrible things that he was putting on people. Here, no, I think the writers I think they love the actor, and I think they, for some reason, they like writing these scenes week after week.
Well, they just have to keep on building him up until they can get to the final confrontation. Jon versus Ramsay, stripped to the waist, man on man, to the death.
This is the thing, though. I mean, a lot of people are excited for the bastard bull. We have many bulls coming, but it would have been so much more interesting if it had been someone like Roose, someone that was not like the Mary Sue, like you say, Michal. It was just perfect and always. He's not a great character in the book either, and I'm not just talking about like morally, but just he's not very interesting as a character in the book either. It's just that there's more going on in Winterfell in the book, so much more going on, whereas it literally is just the Ramsay show here, which it just really, like, I'm not as excited as I would be for like the fight with Jon and everything.
I do almost wonder though, like with like we've had these 2 seasons where he's tortured Theon, he's tortured Sansa, and this season we're getting just him de-raveling. I almost wonder if that's character development, like he's just been losing so much that he's just, instead of doing his whole torture thing, he's escalated to just murdering people because that's the best that he can get off on, which I know sounds so fucking dark.
Yeah, but it's all working out. Like he just decides to kill Roose, and then, oh well, hey, I can just off my new half brother and my father's wife with no one noticing, and no one's, okay, people are gonna pick up that I killed my father. Oh, but they're just gonna deliver me Rickon Stark. Like, it just, there's no consequences for these.
It's not even the consequences. It's just it's not staged in a way that makes it feel like he's unraveling to me. There are a couple moments, I guess, like that. Like in this episode, the moment where he like bites in the apple after felt a little unhinged. But I don't know, like you say, Adam, it just feels like he still feels in control of the situation and feels like he's just doing business as usual, Ramsay business as usual.
It's just only because of is MO the right word? Like the way that he the style that he tortures and kills people is changing from the norm, which makes me feel like it's escalating. I watch too many crime shows, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's fair. I feel like I'm driving this point home too much, but like I think it just falls back to the point that the showrunners haven't developed any other characters to play Ramsay off of, so all we know at Winterfell is him, so it's all just deranged actions. If they took time, either develop the Karstark or the Umbers and build some relationship to like just peer into like the dynamic of the North, it would be more interesting. It's just he's by himself in Winterfell.
Yeah, that's well put. I agree.
Yeah, because I mean, look at this episode. We've got the Wall and even King's Landing, with the Queen of Thorns. We've got a lot of characters colliding again and in the same place and playing off each other. And I mean, a lot of these scenes are actually really good, but in Winterfell, you're right, there's no one.
Let's go ahead and go to our final bit in Vaes Dothrak. starting with Jorah and Daario arriving at the city and making a plan to infiltrate it. Jorah tells Daario that their best bet is to leave their weapons behind and disguise themselves as merchants. Daario reluctantly agrees after discovering Jorah's grayscale infection. They enter the city and are forced to kill 2 Dothraki. Meanwhile, Dany makes a friend with another recently widowed Dash Colleen. I don't know when it happened. The two meet up with Daario and Jorah when they go outside, and Daenerys tells them that they can't sneak out and that she has a much better plan, which it would have to be better than their plan, right? Even though her plan is
to just try to walk away.
If anyone reads the caption version of Game of Thrones on Reddit, he had Jorah's plan is let's disguise as rocks, because of course Jorah is on the way to doing that.
Daario's supposed to be an idiot.
So there's the part where he just grabs the rock and beats the guy's head to death, as though this actually matters. And he's just like, that'll work. That was pretty idiotic, but
yeah, it didn't really cover the wound.
Well, you don't know where he hit it. You could have crushed his chest as well. Just beat him all over the place.
I feel bad for the actor because it just feels like they haven't really given him anything to work with, so it's really hard to describe his character. He has this weird banter with Jorah that just feels flat and has nothing to it.
It's like a dude bro, yeah, I fucked her. What are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
You couldn't ride the dragon.
He might as well have just pulled his pants down and peed on Jorah's leg.
It's just really hard to know what to make of him.
Do you wonder if there's a concierge in Vaes Dothrak where you check in your weapons? They give you a little ticket with your number on it.
The rules of Vaes Dothrak don't make sense.
Good evening, sir. Would you please unarm yourself and I can give you a place in the arms room?
Yeah, there's got to be this whole huge armory full of sweet weapons. So that if this place is ever attacked, why don't, especially at a time like this, why don't the people who are preyed on by the Dothraki ever just attack during this? Because all the weapons are in one place, so if you get a bunch of people there before they get
have to all take a ticket, and it's a huge line. It would never work out for the Dothraki.
But then later on, when the calls are talking, they're like, yeah, man, what's going on here? We're not supposed to have any blood. Well, there's always a little blood.
That was weird.
So blood does matter?
The Khal Morau seemed weirdly progressive about it. He was like, yeah, fuck him. Shit happens. But also, at least the Daario thing, they played it idiotic. They played it like he was doing something really stupid, right? There was no logic to that.
Yeah.
I just wonder what his place in the show is going to be, because in the book it seems like he's in line to be like a backstabber of some kind, but here, like I said, I don't know what to think of him. Is he an idiot, or does he actually love her? Is he in awe of her? What is his purpose other than to rib Jorah?
Any other thoughts on this first bit? We haven't talked at all about the Dash Colleen part.
I kind of liked it.
No, I love that, I have to say. I really liked that these women were treated like women and were kind of yeah, this sucks that this might have to happen to you, Dany. And I don't know, at first I was oh, it's mean Khaleesi's, but then I realized it wasn't that. It was,
last episode it was.
Right, last episode it was. Yep. But it was still kind of humanizing. Yeah. But then this episode, they're all kind of in it together. And I don't know, that might have been one of my favorite unexpected things that happened on the show in a long time.
Yeah, this episode they were like, "You're so fetch, Dany."
Stop trying to make this happen.
And then Dany goes outside and is burning. I'm saying how much they stink, those old women.
That's Dany is a mean girl.
Who is the dead woman?
A mean girl.
Dany is Regina George.
Who is the dead woman outside? Was that just a random Dash Colleen, or who is that?
Who?
What?
Outside, when I'm going forward a little bit, but when the door is locked and we see it's barred from the outside,
those were the guards.
Those were guards. Those weren't
Daario and
I thought that was a woman. Okay.
No, they just have long hair.
It was kind of weird that Dany wasn't surprised at all to see Daario and Jorah hundreds of miles away from where she left them. They just show up and she's like, "Oh, hey guys, don't hurt her."
Oh, I don't know.
Took you long.
Dany. She's quick on her feet.
What would she have done if they hadn't showed up?
The same thing, probably. They didn't do anything. They literally did nothing.
Yeah, she would just use the Dash Colleen, really.
But someone would have had to have barred the door and
the Dash Colleen did it. She did it. She did it.
Yeah.
They literally did.
She's got her new friend.
But we just said someone had to kill the guards.
And you assume that a woman couldn't do that? Oh, sexist.
They don't have knives.
No weapons.
Maybe she's a ninja.
Are they just gonna she's gonna get the other Dosh Colleen to sit there and link arms and be like, you can't unbar the door?
Well, which Dosh Colleen do you tell that wouldn't tell the calls that, oh, by the way, this woman's trying to kill you?
Maybe she pulls okay, so we've confirmed that she's fireproof, so maybe she just pulls the fireproof trick. See, look, I don't burn, I'm magic.
Is she fireproof, or does she not need oxygen to breathe?
Both.
I'm not sure what her magical power is.
We poured the gasoline on the floor of the hut.
It was just very flammable material.
If you look in the background, you can see Jorah sneaking away with a gas can.
So yeah, let's go ahead. As we're picking away at our final scene, we have Danny standing before the calls, telling the story of Drogo and all the great deeds he promised he would do. She says the gathered men are unfit to rule the Dothraki and that she will take their place. When they refuse to serve her, she pushes 2 braziers to the floor, the hut goes up in a blaze, and the calls die screaming. The door barred by Danny's Dosh Colleen friend. Danny emerges from the ashes unburnt, and the Dothraki bow down before her. Yes, stallion that mounts the road. It's Danny!
Let's worship this woman who killed all our leaders.
For killing your leader is how you become the new leader, so...
That actually is a Dothraki
It's their culture.
Well done.
But if they value strength above all, would they care about doing that through guile?
She's strong enough that fire cannot harm her.
She pushed the braziers down and set them on fire. That's pretty strong.
If anyone is weak, it was the Khals, because they didn't survive the fire.
Also,
it was. I mean, Danny has the best music every single season, and this was no exception.
I didn't find it that impressive. I was everybody was like, so I had friends on Facebook and Twitter who were like, oh my gosh, Danny, badass, whoa, and I was like, all right.
Because it's kind of like she's done this trick before.
Yeah,
right.
But this time she did it without her dragons, all by herself.
I don't think this was my favorite scene. It was definitely shocking and awesome and super cool, but the big scene for me this episode was Jon and Sansa,
I like
hands
that
down.
too. I still like this.
I wasn't that excited, actually. And in fact, this scene actually ranks pretty low on my list on the things I actually enjoyed about this episode. It seems done. It seems tried. And it's like, we've seen this side of Danny all the time. This triumphant girl, white-haired Messiah type thing.
All the brown people worshipping her.
It's playing her greatest hits.
Let me see if I can convince her. And if maybe not, but at the very least, what is the alternative? We get a trial, and maybe Drogon comes, and we get 2 or 3 more episodes of messing around with this.
No, it's not.
It's done, and we're moving on, and it's cool.
Again, I don't care about. So I think this is my fundamental disagreement with you in that I don't actually care about them moving forward as long as they have a good. I want them to have a moving forward towards an actual goal I care about, and this is not. And I don't find this impressive. I'm sorry.
You don't think that a Dothraki army and then fleet moving west quicker is a good endpoint?
No, I mean, sure, but the scene itself just doesn't impress me because it's been done.
Well, so I think just raw, I enjoyed it. I can totally see what you're saying, though, Bing, and I think it's true that I think the writers definitely, trapped themselves here where they got to this and they're like, how are she going to get the Dothraki? Wait a minute, what if she just pushed some braziers over and burned them?
It seems incredibly simplistic solution that over what should be a very complex problem.
But I guess I appreciated the surprise because I expected something more complex. I expected her to find a way out of it, find a way to convince them, or for Drogon to miraculously show up, which also would have been
that would have been great. No, that wouldn't have been great either.
But yeah, so I was expecting something different. All of a sudden, she starts pouring over, these braziers, and I'm like, what's going on? And because I'm not, I'm still not realizing the show has her 100% fireproof. So it took me a minute to kind of go, okay, and it was a nice, to me, it was a nice surprise because I just wasn't expecting it.
I agree with you, Bing. It felt extremely contrived. Lazy writing. But to Adam, to your point, you're kind of convincing me there probably wasn't a better alternative eventually, and it does push the plot along. But I just thought, like, really? We're gonna do this? And it just felt boring and kind of... No, boring's not the rule. It just felt really lazy.
Yeah. It was definitely intentionally echoing the past things that she's done about this is where she came from, this is kind of who she is, what she does. And it doesn't mean it's good or great, but I do think I was enjoying it while it was happening, liked it, and I was happy about it. Looking back, I can obviously see the flaws about it, but I'm happy to get it over at this point and see where it goes next.
Yeah, it was well shot. The score was great. Like, everything looked great.
Mm-hmm. Sure. My problem is in book logic. In fact, if they'd done something completely different and completely separate from the books, I would be happy. I'm, in fact, just tired of the fact, and maybe because I study Asian history, of a bunch of, like you said, a bunch of non-white people bowing down to a white person.
Yeah, that's a greater issue than we all are kind of. That's a greater issue with the storytelling here. I don't think we can accuse this scene of that.
And how else is she going to get the Dothraki following her without people being like white savior? You know, like.
You can think of ways.
I can't point to a thing in the scene and go like that was bad. You know, it's just that I think that all together it was kind of samey and. I don't know. I feel like it would have been more badass if Dany had like empowered the Doge Colleen to like take over or something like that.
To like murder the calls.
Yeah, like something like that. Like have them all perform like a secret ceremony.
Now that I think about it, that would have probably been better if they had gone with that. Because that seemed like it was almost building towards that, right? With the Doge Colleen kind of taking back power.
Yeah, like what if we had the whole Doge Colleen like on the outside of it just burning down the building, and then Dany still comes out as being the unburnt, but it's a group effort.
Well, I say this proves that we should be doing the show instead of them. We're much better.
Let's do it.
I'll write it.
I mean, I still totally bought the scene, and I do think to some extent they were doing the Doge Colleen thing with at least her pal Doge Colleen. She did help her in this action, so there was that to some extent.
One of the things that I also kind of took from it was personally an Ares connection. How she just watches her enemies burn, and I'm like, ooh, that's
and was loving
a little,
it.
Yeah, she's like smiling the entire time. I'm like, ooh, that's a little foreboding. I mean, I know these dick suckers like all just kind of deserve it, but where do you draw the line where you start really enjoying burning people to death?
Fire is the champion of House Targaryen.
Yeah.
One funny observation of the scene when it pulls out to the wide shot and there's a huge circle and they're all bowing down. What are the people on the other side of the circle bowing down to? All they see is a burning house, and everybody else bowing down, because she's just on that side of the hut, so they can't see her at all. They just see everyone else bowing down.
No, the word passed.
Bow to the fire.
It's like, once someone bows, like, hey, what's everyone bowing down to? What's going on over there? Just bow.
When everybody puts their finger on their nose, the last one.
Yeah, well, obviously Jorah has to clean, or Dario has to clean up, because he was the last one to deal.
Right.
This scene wasn't that bad. It's not. I'm not saying it's bad.
First to say, like in reading the book Game of Thrones, Dany was absolutely my favorite character, and the only character that I ever really skipped chapters ahead for. And it's been a while since it kind of petered out at the end of A Storm of Swords and through Dance with Dragons, and also in the show, that I've really been excited about her story. And I was excited when I saw this moment. And it might be that I'm being emotionally manipulated, and they're the obvious callback to the thing with the dragons. It's possible, but yeah, like I was into it, and I recognize all the problems. But it's fun to just get excited about Game of Thrones sometimes. But yeah, we'll go ahead and wrap it there with our 4th episode review of Game of Thrones Season 6, Book of the Stranger. Join us next week for Episode 5, The Door, directed by Jack Bender and written once again by David Benioff and D.B. Weiss. They're writing them all these days. It feels like.
I wonder if they do.
Well,
I'm curious who's really writing.
Dave Hill, but that's the only one thus far that's been someone else. For some reason, they haven't released all the writers. I haven't found them anywhere except like when the episode happens. But all right, well, that'll be that for this episode. Thank you guys very much for listening, and thank you guys very much for joining me for this review. Check us out on iTunes, on the VOK Podcast WordPress, on YouTube, on Twitter, on Facebook, on Tumblr, and on the Podcast Device and Fire forums if you'd like to join the discussion. That is that. Thank you guys. And yes, and Tinder, our new Tinder VOK.
Yeah, you forgot Tinder.
If you'd like to check it out. That's a thing we have apparently. So yes, that's.
We're all
website, guys.
Swipe whichever way means yes.
Wow.
I can tell you use the app quite a bit.
I can never remember when people are talking about the swiping things.
The kids and their swiping. It's just great.
Those kids and the swiping. Get off my YouTube.
And that's it, guys. Thank you very much, and we'll be back next week. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jack.
Bye.